Hello everyone and welcome. I am Melissa and I want to share with you today an incredibly late October TBR. This just feels like it's par for the course at this point with everything that I want to do, and then there's no energy to do it. So I am very late. Some of the books on my TBR I have already finished, and that's fine. I'm still going to share them with you so that way you know what I had planned to read and succeeded in. I have a cup of chai, I have my books, I'm ready to go. Let's chat about October's reading plans. Okay, to start very vaguely, I had this idea in August, September, I don't remember. It was before school started when I had some energy to kind of think of and plan out a little bit of what I wanted to do. And I specifically chose books for October that were a little bit more spooky, Halloween kind of focused. So at some point in every book's title, except with the exception of a couple, there are things that you would associate with spooktacular kinds of theme, right? To get started, I have already finished I Killed Zoe Spanos. It was so good. For me, it was a 5-star. There were just so many references to things in here that I am incredibly familiar with. It takes place in the Hamptons. My husband's family is not from the Hamptons, but they're very close to there. So there was a lot of references of places and locations and things like that that I have been to or I'm incredibly familiar with. This whole story takes place in 2 alternating timelines. There's a then and there's a now. And our protagonist, Anna, the very beginning of the story, she's in the police station confessing to the murder of Zoe Spanos. And you kind of flip back and forth between her current memories and her past memories, and there's a lot of gaps in there. Something isn't totally right. So as you're weaving through this timeline trying to figure out what really happened to Zoe, Anna, is she a trustworthy narrator at that point? And that was something that I really enjoyed. The plot twist at the end was something I didn't see coming. I thought that it was pretty well covered, which was why I really enjoyed it. I hate when I can guess the endings of murder mysteries like this and they try to really, goof with you through the whole thing, and then you're like, oh, well, that was really obvious. I knew it. This, I did not feel like it was like that, and I really enjoyed it. So I did give this one a 5 out of 5 stars. I'm going to talk about the next books all together just because it's a trilogy. I'm trying to read them before the 15th, but at the rate that I'm going, that's not going to happen, and that's okay. I have finished You, which was terrible. I hated it. The show was far better. And I'm halfway through Hidden Bodies, and then there's Providence, which is what the 3rd season that is upcoming is all about. But I don't want to ruin it for myself because I've already seen the trailer on Netflix, so I kind of have an idea, but I'm kind of keeping it separate. I don't want to go any further with it. This was just psychopathically awful. I really found for me that the show was far better because there's just too much sexualness to the books because you're in a sociopath's mind. And it was uncomfortable a lot of the time. We're you get that in the show, but not to the extent that is in the books. So I'm not thrilled with these, but I feel obligated now to continue reading them, and I will. I am currently in the middle of Cemetery Boys. This is about a trans character who's our protagonist, Yadriel, and Yadriel wants to be a brujo and is trying to prove his worth, and his family hasn't fully accepted that he is trans. And so sometimes there's situations that come up where they're just not acknowledging that he is a boy and that it's not a choice kind of thing. For instance, when the brujos go out to find Miguel, his cousin who has been killed, he is told to stay home with the other women. And that hurts, that cuts him deep. With the part that I'm at, he and Julian are kind of trying to find his friends. They just found them and had the run-in. I should probably tell you that Julian is a spirit, and this is really close to Dia de los Muertos, so there's a lot that's going on in preparation for that. So there's some murder, Julian and Miguel, that has happened, and their bodies have just disappeared without a trace. And so Yadriel is trying to prove himself as a brujo that if he can send a spirit onto the other world, then he has been acknowledged by Lady Death and would be able to be a true brujo like he thinks that he is. He ends up working with Julian, who has been murdered, and they're trying to like figure out what happened to him while figuring out what happened to Miguel. So I'm maybe halfway through. I've been reading it at school, and it took a little bit to get into just like some of the language and a lot of the Latinx references and seeing the Spanish language throughout, but I'm good. I'm at a spot where now I'm really starting to fly and the plot is picking up. So that's another book that's on my list. Other things that I'm reading this month are books that I bought a year and a half ago, 2 years ago for my classroom, and with full intention of reading them before I brought them in, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. So we have The Borden Murders. This was actually gifted to me. This is the Dead Queens Club, which I believe is an adult read. I don't think that this is a classroom one, but I can't remember exactly. I feel like I was told it was more adult. And How It Feels to Float. I picked up The Borden Murders because a lot of my students are really interested in dark mysteries like this and murders, and who better to read a nonfiction story about than Lizzie Borden. I remember being in 8th grade and learning about Lizzie Borden, and you know, like there's the whole song and everything, and there's shows and there's plays, and it was such a like standout memory for me of 8th grade. So I figured that I would read this and then book talk it with my students. And this is just pretty much, it has photos in it, it has newspaper clippings. There's an image from the crime scene, which took place in 1892. So hello, that's pretty cool. But I think that this will be a real winner in my room. So I would like to read it and bring it in for my students to enjoy as well. It has been a while since I have like looked at what the summary is of How It Feels to Float. The reason that I picked this up was when I was at the Kelly Gallagher and Penny Kittle conference before the pandemic hit. This was one of her recommended books, and so I just pretty much put everything into a wish list and have slowly been collecting them over time. But this one is about Biz, who she just kind of floats through life is my general understanding of it. And there's a lot of like dark secrets that she's keeping, things she doesn't want to share, things that she's kind of holding in. But something happens on the beach and she just comes undone. And that's it. Like she spirals out of control. It is a debut novel, which I thought was really cool. And it just says that it's a story about love and grief and family and friendship and intergenerational mental illness. And living with the mental illness is both a bridge and a chasm to ones that we've lost. So this seems like it's going to be an emotional wreck of a book for me, but it was highly recommended, so I'm really looking forward to it. I have no idea what this one's about. All I remember is it was given to me at some point in time, and I believe that it's like a retelling. Yeah, okay, so pretty much they're in high school, and if your homecoming king had a little too much in common with Henry VIII, would your head still be attached kind of thing. So it seems like it's just a more modern, younger retelling of something that is completely true, and I don't really know how it's going to go, but it seems like it's kind of snarky and kind of funny, almost Mean Girls-esque. This kind of looks like the Burn book to me, so I get a little bit of that vibe to it. The final book that I need to get through, it's really a big want to get through by the end of October, is an arc from Macmillan. This is called Bright Ruined Things, and it takes place in the 1920s. It's very Gatsby-esque. Okay, so I don't really remember what it's about. Okay, so there is a wealthy family who controls magic on an island. May, who is our protagonist, wants magic of her own, and it is first night, and they're going to celebrate, and spirits start dying. And that's pretty much all I'm taking away from this, because I would rather it be a surprise and have a pretty solid review to provide for Macmillan about my thoughts and feelings about it. So this is not Halloween-y based at all for me, except that I have a Gatsby costume, a flapper costume, so maybe it does actually tie in for me. Hey, look at that. But for the most part, we have a murder trilogy, we have killing, we have cemeteries, we have murders, we have floating, and we have dead, all in the title. So these are the books that I am planning on reading in this October. I think I'm making good progress so far. I am so sorry that my TBR video is so late. I hope you weren't absolutely waiting for it, but that is it. That's all I really have. Short, sweet, to the point, and I cannot wait to go through and do a wrap-up video on these books and tell you how I feel about them besides what I've already shared. If you are reading any books that are super similar, or you have some other very spooky kind of suggestions, I know there's a ton of stuff going around right now, but please feel free to leave some stuff in the comments and let me know, like, if you've read any of the books, what your thoughts were. As always, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to comment below and subscribe, and I will see you next time with a new video. Bye.